So, the funny thing about it is that even, and I alluded to this before, even when people do make decisions as opposed to comparisons, they make emotional decisions first, and then they justify them financially. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. So one thing about emotion is that, if you look at these three words, forward motion, motivation, emotion, you will not get anyone to act unless they get motivated. And you will not get anybody motivated unless you hit a heartstring of emotion. I'm not saying, to a crying couch and a box of tissues. I'm not talking about soap opera crying. I'm talking about just really thinking about, wow, it is really stupid the way we're doing this, without this new product. We're really wasting a lot of money, or we're losing employees, or our test scores in our schools are too low, or our patient outcomes are problematic. People get emotional about things that make them upset. And when they get upset, they go to motivation. When they go to motivation, they have more forward motion. So if you're looking for motivation, looking for forward motion in your selling strategy, you have to ask yourself, at what acupressure point am I touching that might generate an emotion, okay? So this is an interesting thing. One of the things I do when I do a keynote for a large audience, I actually ask the host to give me the names of 5 or 6 people who are the top producers in their organization. So for example, bringing up Honeywell again, when I did the Honeywell Momentum keynote right here in Florida, actually several years ago, 1,200 people, I said, listen, before I do the keynote, I need to talk to your 6 top producers in North America. I want to talk to each one of them for half an hour. And I always ask them the same question. To what do you attribute your outside success in selling solutions? And one guy I did that to gave me an answer that sort of surprised me. He says, well, keep in mind, this guy was selling energy saving projects and services, okay? He says, well, I'll tell you one thing, I've never let the word savings cross my lips. I said, really? You're selling energy saving projects, you never say the word savings? He says, listen, Mark, do we live in a nation of savers? How many people think we live in a nation of savers? Let the record show that no one's hands go up, okay? The point is that we don't live in a nation of savers. I speak a lot in Canada. They're not a nation of savers either, our neighbors to the north. They're more polite, but they're not any more saving. But in any case, the point is that we're not in the nation of savers. What do people really care about? They care about what they're going to spend the money on. And a truism is that, and he told me this, he said, let's say I'm going to sell a large lighting retrofit to Boeing. He says, I'll walk into their warehouse. I'll get there an hour early. I'll chat up everybody that I can come across, and I'll say something like, "Hey, if this company came into $10,000, what do you think they should spend the money on?" And they'll tell me. The warehouseman will tell me, "Well, we got 3 electric forklifts, and one of the charging stations is broken. So if this company came into $10,000, call me crazy. I think I'd fix that charging station. So now we have 5 warehousemen having 3 forklifts instead of 2 forklifts, right?" So then he waltzes into the vice president of operations office, having done this little reconnaissance, getting there early, an hour early, and he says, "Bill, thanks for, I'm glad our calendars aligned for a meeting today. I got here a little early. I guess I overestimated for traffic. But I did have a chance to chat with some of your people, and I walked through your warehouse and didn't have a chance to do an investment grade analysis, but I did notice 2 things. One, you are wasting a lot of energy." Now notice he uses the word waste instead of saving, okay? Secondly, as I talk to people, it occurred to me that if you didn't waste $10,000 a month in energy, you could, who knows, maybe you could fix that electric vehicle charging station that's broken. And he'll go through this litany of what people have told him. Now, that vice president of operations, whoever it was he was meeting with, he'd heard these plaintive cries for an electric vehicle charging station for that forklift probably 50 times. And now this person is telling him how he can take money that's already in the budget, repurpose it for something that will satisfy some core benefits that he needs to deliver to his staff. Something that's on his wish list he hasn't been able to cross off because he didn't think he had the money. Okay? So the bottom line is, how do you make financial savings compelling? It really let's go back to the residential environment. We talked about Boeing in commercial setting. Let's say residential. I have a friend who's saving X number of dollars each month on whatever it is, utility, phone, cable, and he's using that savings to, boom, fund educational expenses. Maybe take his wife out for dinner once, preserve the marriage with date night once a month. Maybe do some leisure. I was doing a presentation for a utility company in Connecticut, and a guy came up to me, the guy who was introducing me, he said, "Listen, Mark, I want you to know, I use your book with my wife." I'm thinking to myself, I didn't think it was that kind of a book. But apparently he tells me the story that she wanted to buy a station wagon, he wanted to buy a station wagon with the family, she wanted to buy a brand new Subaru Outback, He wanted to buy a used Saturn station wagon. And she said, well, I want an Outback. I spent a lot of time in the car. He said, honey, remember that jet ski that we were going to buy that was $60 a month? We were thinking of putting it out the cabin so that we could have videos of our children when they still loved us. So would you rather have a Subaru Outback, very, very comfortable car, or would you rather have a Saturn pulling a jet ski that will allow us to take videos of children when they still loved us? He says, the book was great. So I used that line later on with another audience, and a woman raised her hand. She says, no, I know what happened. The book was on the nightstand. She read the book as well, and I know the next week they were buying a Subaru Outback, pulling a jet ski, and he was giving up his golf lessons.